Hi there, welcome to Mental Health Monday. If you're new here, my name is Renee and I'm a psychologist. And each week we look at a Mental Health Monday episode and a Thrive Thursday episode. Today is Mental Health Monday, and this is where we talk about mental health through the lens of compassion, psychology, and nervous system science. So, the other thing we do on Mondays is we talk about understanding the topic or explaining something or giving some information as a backdrop. And then on Thursdays, we look at tools to help support you with what we learned on Monday. So this week, we are focusing on understanding emotional experiences that often get misunderstood or minimized, and grief is one of them. So when most people hear the word grief, they think about death, but many of the people I work with are grieving things that never had a funeral, and that grief still matters. So grief is more defined in a more relatable way as the emotional experience to loss. So loss can be any kind of loss. Remember, it's not just about death. So some examples of losses might be loss of the relationship that you hoped would change or get better, loss of the version of yourself that you used to be, loss of a sense of safety you once had because of some life experiences. It might be loss of health, loss of energy, loss of career, loss of identity. Anything like that that impacts your life feels like a loss. Or it can be the loss of dreams that don't unfold the way you hoped or imagined they would. Now, the broader understanding of grief comes from attachment theory, meaning making models of grief, and there's also some more contemporary bereavement psychology models that may come into play today as we talk. So, why, when we have grief that we don't name, why does that hurt so much? Well, when grief isn't acknowledged, it often shows up kind of sideways. So it'll show up as irritability, as numbness, as anger, as anxiety, as sadness, even if we don't clearly understand the reason for it. It can show up as fatigue as well. Now, the nervous system still feels the loss, even if your mind minimizes it. So, some relatable scenarios: you feel sad after you set boundaries with family because you know things are going to change, even if those boundaries were necessary. You might feel emotional after a life transition that you maybe should be happy about. So, getting married is a really exciting time for some people, but there's also a loss of what life was like when you were maybe single or more free or with less responsibilities, or when you were able to be more independent and maybe not consider other people's needs as well. You might grieve a childhood that you wish you had or that you didn't get, even while you love your adult life, if you intentionally made changes to have things different. So people don't always maybe agree with this, but you can be grateful at the same time you are still experiencing grief. Now, unfortunately, culturally, we're kind of taught to rush grief. And why? Well, a lot of people are uncomfortable with grief, right? So we're taught to kind of stay positive, move forward, be strong, find the silver lining. But grief isn't a problem to solve. It is a process that we need to honor, name, and move through. Okay, grief isn't one of those things you can sidestep. Unfortunately, you have to go right through it. So, Alan Wolfelt is a psychologist who studies grief, and he says grief requires attention. It cannot be hurried. So, grief doesn't mean you're stuck, it means that something that you've lost really mattered to you. So, next episode, we will talk about how to make space for grief without getting overwhelmed or lost in it. So, these aren't tools to rush grief or minimize it or move on from grief. On Thursday, we're going to just look at tools that are going to help you with your experience of grief. Now, if this resonates with you, please like it or maybe share it with someone who could use this episode. And if you subscribe, it does help people who might need it reach this episode as well. So there's nothing wrong or weak about grieving. It's a sign of connection, something that mattered to you. It's a sign of loss. And on Thursday, we will look at some ways to support you with this. You got this. I will see you soon.